There's a particular kind of terror that comes not from being caught doing something wrong, but from being caught telling the truth. Maya Chen lived with that terror every single day, navigating the glass towers of corporate America with a secret she carried like a stone in her chest. She didn't just dislike her boss. She was utterly, completely, hopelessly attracted to him, and that attraction felt like betrayal, because everyone knew Dominic Kane was heartless. If this story resonates with you, subscribe to the channel and leave a like. Comment where you're listening from, and if you feel it was truly worth it, consider becoming a member for early access to upcoming stories. Your support means everything. The 42nd floor of Kane Industries smelled like expensive coffee and quiet desperation, a scent Maya had learned to associate with survival. The floor-to-ceiling windows offered a view of the city that should have been inspiring, but instead felt like a reminder of how high up she was and how far she had to fall. The office was all clean lines and cold surfaces, glass and steel and polished marble that reflected back a version of the world that was sharp, unforgiving, perfect. Just like him, Maya sat at her desk outside the corner office, her fingers flying across the keyboard with practiced efficiency. She'd been Dominic Kane's executive assistant for 18 months. 18 months of walking on eggshells, anticipating needs before they were spoken, moving through her days like a dancer who'd memorized every step of an exhausting routine. She was good at her job. Exceptional, even. But she'd learned early that excellence was the baseline expectation, not something deserving of praise. Dominic Kane didn't do praise. He did results. At 38, he was the youngest CEO in the company's history, a self-made billionaire who'd built his empire through ruthless intelligence and an almost supernatural ability to see 3 moves ahead of everyone else. He was tall, well over 6 feet, with the kind of presence that made rooms go quiet when he entered. Dark hair always perfectly styled, sharp jawline, ice blue eyes that seemed to see through every pretense, every weakness, every secret. He wore custom suits that probably cost more than Maya's monthly rent, moved with the controlled grace of a predator, and spoke in a low voice that could cut through steel. And God help her, Maya found him devastating. It wasn't just his looks, though those were undeniable. It was the intelligence, the focus, the way his mind worked like a precision instrument. She'd seen him dismantle opposing counsel in negotiations, had watched him solve problems that left other executives paralyzed, had observed the sheer force of will he brought to everything he touched. But she'd also seen the coldness, the way he could fire someone without a flicker of emotion, the way he worked 18-hour days and expected everyone around him to do the same, the way he never smiled, never laughed, never showed anything that resembled human warmth. Heartless, people called him. The Ice King. The Machine. And Maya, despite knowing better, despite seeing the evidence every single day, wanted him with an intensity that terrified her. The elevator chimed, and Maya's spine straightened automatically. She knew that pattern, knew he was coming back from his lunch meeting early. She quickly minimized her personal email and pulled up the afternoon schedule, her face arranging itself into the mask of professional competence she wore like armor. Dominic strode past her desk without a word, his presence like a cold front moving through the space. He was on his phone, clipping out instructions to someone in that voice that brooked no argument. Maya caught a hint of his cologne, something dark and expensive that shouldn't have affected her, but did, and she hated herself for noticing. He disappeared into his office, and Maya exhaled slowly. 3 more hours. She could survive 3 more hours, then go home, pour herself a large glass of wine, and try to forget that she was attracted to a man who probably didn't even see her as human, just as a particularly efficient piece of office equipment. Her phone buzzed. A text from her colleague Sarah in accounting. "Coffee break? I need to complain about my day." Maya glanced at Dominic's closed door. He was on a call. Would be for at least 20 minutes based on his schedule. She grabbed her phone and headed to the break room on the 40th floor, the unofficial gathering place for assistants and junior staff who needed to vent without being overheard. Sarah was already there, along with Jennifer from marketing and 2 other women Maya recognized but didn't know well. They were clustered around the coffee machine, voices low but animated. "I'm telling you," Sarah was saying as Maya walked in, "he's impossible. I submitted those reports 3 times, and each time he found something wrong. Not even wrong, just not exactly how he wanted it." "That's Cain for you," Jennifer said, rolling her eyes. "Perfectionist doesn't even begin to cover it." Maya poured herself coffee, staying quiet. She'd learned not to engage in these conversations, but she couldn't help listening. "He's sexy as hell, though," one of the other women said, a blonde whose name Maya thought was Rachel. "I mean, you can't deny that." "Oh, absolutely," Sarah agreed. "Those eyes, that jaw, the way he fills out a suit. If he wasn't such a complete asshole, I'd be in trouble." "Please," Jennifer laughed. "He's made of ice. I don't think he has a heart at all. Probably just a very efficient pump keeping that cold blood moving." "The boss is sexy but heartless," Rachel said, as if summing up a universal truth. That should be the company motto. They all laughed, and Maya smiled despite herself. It was such a perfect encapsulation of the contradiction that tormented her every day. Yes, he was attractive. Yes, he was cold. Yes, it was insane to feel anything for him except professional respect tinged with healthy fear. "I heard he went through 3 assistants before Maya," Sarah said, glancing at her. "How do you survive it?" Maya shrugged, keeping her voice carefully neutral. "I just do my job. Anticipate what he needs. Stay out of his way." "You're a saint," Jennifer said. "I couldn't do it. All that perfection and 0 warmth. I'd lose my mind." "The boss is sexy, but heartless," Rachel repeated, seeming to enjoy the phrase. "Honestly, I wonder if he's even capable of human emotion." Maya felt something twist in her chest, a strange defensiveness she had no right to feel. She wanted to say that they didn't know him, didn't see the way his jaw tightened when he was frustrated, didn't notice the tiny tells that suggested there was something more beneath that frozen surface. But she didn't say anything. Because maybe they were right. Maybe she was seeing things that weren't there, projecting depth onto a man who was exactly what he appeared to be, brilliant, driven, and completely empty of warmth. She was about to make an excuse to leave when she heard it, a subtle shift in the air, a presence that made every nerve in her body go on high alert. She turned slowly, already knowing what she'd see. Dominic Cain stood in the doorway of the break room, his tall frame filling the space, ice-blue eyes scanning the group with an expression that gave nothing away. The room went silent. Everyone froze, coffees halfway to mouths, smiles dying on faces. Maya felt her heart drop into her stomach. How long had he been standing there? How much had he heard? His gaze moved across each face, lingering for just a moment, cataloging, assessing. Then it landed on Maya, and for one terrible second, she saw something flicker in those cold eyes. Something that might have been hurt, or might have been anger, or might have been nothing at all. "Miss Chen," he said, his voice perfectly level, perfectly controlled. "My office. Now." He turned and walked away, not waiting for a response. Maya set down her coffee with a hand that trembled slightly. The other women were staring at her, with expressions ranging from sympathy to relief that they weren't the ones being summoned. She smoothed her skirt, lifted her chin, and followed him. The walk back to the 42nd floor felt like a march to execution. Her mind raced, trying to calculate exactly what he'd heard, how bad this was going to be. She'd never badmouthed him herself, but she'd been present. She'd smiled. She'd tacitly agreed with the assessment. The boss is sexy but heartless. Oh God. When she entered his office, he was standing at the window, hands in his pockets, looking out at the city. His posture was relaxed, but Maya had learned to read the subtle tensions in his shoulders, the set of his jaw. He was angry. Or something. "Close the door," he said without turning around. She did, her heart hammering. For a long moment, he said nothing, just stood there, a silhouette against the afternoon light, perfectly still. Maya waited, barely breathing. Finally, he turned to face her. His expression was unreadable, but his eyes held something she'd never seen before. A crack in the ice, a glimpse of something raw beneath. "How long have you worked for me, Miss Chen?" His voice was soft, almost conversational, which somehow made it more frightening. 18 months, sir. 18 months, he repeated, as if testing the words. "And in that time, would you say you've gotten to know me?" It was a trap. Every question was a trap. "I've learned your preferences, your work style, your expectations, sir." "That's not what I asked." He took a step closer, and Maya had to force herself not to step back. "I asked if you've gotten to know me. As a person, not as a boss." Maya's mouth went dry. This was dangerous territory. Personal in a way their relationship had never been. "I don't think that's been part of my job description, sir." Something that might have been a smile ghosted across his face, bitter and brief. "No. I suppose it hasn't been." He moved to his desk, leaning against it, arms crossed. "Do you agree with them?" The women in the break room. Her mind went blank. "Sir, it's a simple question, Miss Chen. Do you think I'm heartless?" The way he said it, so calm, so controlled, made it even worse. Because underneath that control, she heard something else. She heard a man who'd been called that word so many times it had stopped hurting, or maybe had started hurting in ways he'd learned to hide. Maya made a choice. A stupid, reckless, possibly career-ending choice. "No, sir. I don't think you're heartless." His eyes narrowed. "You're just saying what you think I want to hear. With respect, sir, if I was just saying what you wanted to hear, I would have agreed with you. It would be easier." "Easier how?" "Because then I could keep my distance. Keep seeing you as just a boss, just a job. But I don't think you're heartless. I think you're—" She stopped herself, horrified at what she'd almost said. "You think I'm what, Miss Chen?" His voice was dangerously soft now. She swallowed hard. "I think you're careful. I think you don't let people in because you've learned it's safer not to. I think you demand excellence because you demand it of yourself first. I think you work 18-hour days, not because you're a machine, but because you care too much about what you've built to trust anyone else with it." The words tumbled out before she could stop them. 18 months of observation, of noticing things she shouldn't have noticed, of seeing past the ice to something she had no right to see. "And I think," she continued, knowing she was ending her career but unable to stop, "that calling you heartless is the easiest way for people to explain why they can't reach you. Because admitting that you have a heart, and simply choose not to show it to them, would mean admitting they haven't earned it." The silence that followed was absolute. Dominic stared at her with an expression she couldn't read, his jaw tight, his eyes searching her face as if looking for something he'd lost. Then, so quietly she almost didn't hear it, he said, "Get out." Maya's heart shattered. She'd gone too far, said too much, revealed too much. She nodded once professionally and turned toward the door. "Miss Chen." She stopped but didn't turn around. "Tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. My office. We need to discuss your continued employment here." The words were formal, final. Maya nodded again and walked out, her legs somehow carrying her to her desk, her hands somehow gathering her things, her face somehow maintaining composure until she made it to the elevator, down to the lobby, out to the street. Only then, walking 3 blocks to the subway in the gray afternoon light, did she let herself feel it. The crushing weight of having lost something she never really had. That night, Maya didn't sleep. She lay in her small apartment, staring at the ceiling, replaying every word, every moment. She'd be fired tomorrow. She knew it, and maybe that was for the best, because working for Dominic Kane while feeling what she felt was its own special kind of torture. Around 2 a.m., her phone buzzed. An email. From him. Her heart stopped as she opened it. Miss Chen, bring coffee tomorrow. Black, no sugar. We have much to discuss. DK. That was all. No indication of what awaited her, no hint of mercy or condemnation, just an order, as always. Maya got out of bed and went to her laptop. If this was her last day, she'd go out doing her job perfectly. She spent the next 3 hours preparing for a meeting she had no agenda for, researching, organizing, making sure she had everything that might possibly be needed. When her alarm went off at 5:30, she was already showered and dressed. She chose her armor carefully, a charcoal gray suit, silk blouse, heels that added 3 inches to her 5'4" frame. Professional, competent, untouchable. She arrived at the office at 6:45, stopped at the coffee shop in the lobby. Black. No sugar for him. A latte for herself. Because if she was being fired, she deserved good coffee. The 42nd floor was empty, silent except for the hum of computers in sleep mode and the distant city sounds filtering through the windows. She knocked on his office door at precisely 7 a.m. Come in. He was already at his desk, shirt sleeves rolled up, tie loosened. He looked like he'd been there for hours, maybe all night. There were dark circles under his eyes she'd never seen before, a weariness that made him look more human and somehow more devastating. Coffee, sir. She set it on his desk. Thank you. He gestured to the chair across from him. Sit. Maya sat, spine straight, hands folded in her lap, professional to the end. Dominic took a sip of coffee, grimaced slightly. It was probably terrible after the night he'd had. Set it down. Then, he did something she'd never seen him do. He ran a hand through his hair, disrupting the perfect styling, making him look younger, vulnerable. I didn't sleep last night, he said abruptly. I kept thinking about what you said. Maya waited, not trusting her voice. You were right, he continued, his eyes meeting hers with an intensity that made her breath catch. About all of it. The careful distance, the walls, the 18-hour days. All of it. He stood, moved to the window, his back to her. My father built this company, started it with nothing, turned it into an empire. He was brilliant, charismatic, loved by everyone. He was also a disaster at actual business. Made decisions based on emotion, on loyalty, on trust. Nearly bankrupted us 3 times before I was old enough to take over. His voice was quiet, but steady, like he was excavating something buried deep. When I was 25, he made a deal with a man he considered a friend. Didn't check the contracts properly because he trusted him. We lost $40 million and nearly lost the company. I spent the next 3 years cleaning up the mess, rebuilding, making sure it never happened again. He turned to face her. I learned that emotions in business are liabilities, that trust without verification is foolishness, that caring too much about people makes you vulnerable to manipulation. So I stopped. I stopped letting anyone close. I stopped showing weakness. I became exactly what I needed to be to protect what my father built. Maya's throat was tight. That sounds lonely. It is. The admission was stark, undefended. But loneliness is safer than betrayal. Distance is safer than disappointment. Being the Ice King is safer than being the fool my father was." "Your father wasn't a fool," Maya said softly. "He was human. And his humanity nearly destroyed everything." Dominic's jaw tightened. "I can't afford to be human, Miss Chen. Not in this position. Not with this much at stake. Everyone can afford to be human, sir. The question is whether you're willing to pay the price for pretending you're not." He stared at her for a long moment. Then, unexpectedly, he laughed. It was a short, rough sound, like something rusty finally moving. "You're not fired." Maya blinked. "Sir? You're not fired," he repeated. "In fact, I'm promoting you. I don't understand. 18 months, Miss Chen. 18 months you've worked for me, and not once have you lied to me. Not once have you told me what I wanted to hear instead of what I needed to hear. Not once have you been anything other than brutally, refreshingly honest." He moved back to his desk, but didn't sit. Instead, he leaned against it, closer to her than he'd ever been. "Do you know how rare that is? How valuable?" Maya's heart was racing, her mind struggling to keep up with this conversation that had veered so far from what she'd expected. "I just did my job, sir." "No," he said firmly. "You did far more than your job. You saw me. Not the position, not the title, not the reputation. You saw me." The weight of those words settled between them, heavy with meaning. "Yesterday in the break room," he continued, his voice dropping lower, "when I heard them talking, I wasn't angry about the criticism. I've heard worse. I've been called worse. What bothered me was that you were there, and I realized I cared what you thought. Which is unusual for me. Sir, I should explain. I didn't say those things, I know what you said," he interrupted. "I heard the entire conversation. I heard you defend me, albeit briefly. I heard you go quiet when they called me heartless. I saw your face." He paused. "And then you came in here and told me the truth anyway, even knowing it might cost you your job. Why?" Maya hesitated. This was the precipice, the moment where she could step back to safety or jump into the unknown. She jumped. "Because I don't think you're heartless, and I couldn't let you believe that I did, even if it meant losing my position. Why does my opinion of your opinion matter to you, Miss Chen?" The question was soft, dangerous, loaded with implications she wasn't sure she was ready to face. But she'd come this far. "Because I respect you. Because I've spent 18 months watching you build something extraordinary through sheer force of will and brilliant strategy. Because I've seen you make impossible decisions and carry the weight of thousands of employees' livelihoods without complaint. Because," she stopped, the next words too revealing, too honest. "Because?" His eyes held hers, and she saw something in them she'd never seen before. Vulnerability. Hope. Fear. "Because I see you," she whispered, "and what you've had to become to survive. And I think it's remarkable and heartbreaking in equal measure." Dominic was very still. When he spoke, his voice was rough. "You should be careful, Miss Chen. Seeing people clearly is dangerous, especially people like me. I'm not afraid of you. Maybe you should be." But there was no threat in his words, only warning. "I don't have relationships. I don't do emotional connections. I don't let people close because I can't afford the distraction or the vulnerability." "I understand, sir. Do you?" He moved closer, and Maya's breath caught. "Because I'm trying very hard to maintain professional boundaries right now, and you're making it extraordinarily difficult." The air between them felt electric, charged with 18 months of unspoken tension. "I didn't mean to." "Yes, you did." His voice was low, almost a growl. "You walked in here looking like you were ready for battle. You sat across from me with your spine straight and your chin up, And you looked at me like I was worth defending, like I was worth understanding. Do you have any idea what that does to a man who's spent a decade convincing himself he doesn't need to be seen? Maya couldn't breathe, couldn't think. "Sir, Dominic," he said. "When we're alone, call me Dominic." "That wouldn't be appropriate." "None of this is appropriate, Miss Chen. But I find I've stopped caring about appropriate where you're concerned." He was close enough now that she could see the flecks of gray in his blue eyes, could smell his cologne mixed with coffee and something uniquely him. "This is a terrible idea," she said, but her voice lacked conviction. "Absolutely terrible," he agreed. "I'm your boss. There are power dynamics, HR concerns, professional ethics. All true. And yet." He reached out slowly, giving her time to move away, and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. His fingers barely grazed her skin, but she felt it everywhere. "And yet I haven't been able to stop thinking about you since the day you started. The way you anticipate what I need before I ask. The way you never flinch when I'm in a mood. The way you move through this office like you belong here, like you're not intimidated by any of it." "I am intimidated," Maya admitted. "By all of it. By you most of all." "Why?" "Because you see too much. Because you're too intelligent, too focused, too everything. Because being around you feels like standing too close to a fire, dangerous and compelling in equal measure." Dominic's hand was still near her face, trembling slightly, the only sign that he was affected. "I should step back. I should maintain professional distance. I should remember all the reasons this is impossible." "You should," Maya agreed. "But I'm not going to." And then he kissed her. It wasn't gentle or tentative. It was fierce, consuming. 18 months of restrained wanting unleashed in a moment. His hand cupped her face, the other wrapping around her waist, pulling her up from the chair and against him. Maya gasped against his mouth, and he took advantage, deepening the kiss until she was dizzy with it. Her hands found his shoulders, his hair, pulling him closer even as her mind screamed that this was wrong. This was dangerous. This was career suicide. But God, it felt right. Like every moment of the past 18 months had been leading here, to this office, this man, this impossible, reckless thing. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Dominic rested his forehead against hers. "This complicates things," he said, his voice rough. "Significantly." "Yes, sir." "Dominic," he corrected, then laughed, shakily. "Though I have to admit, hearing you call me sir in this context is doing things to me it probably shouldn't." Maya felt her face heat. "This is insane. We work together. You're my boss. There are rules, policies, I know." He pulled back slightly, his hand still on her waist. "Believe me, I know. I wrote half those policies. So what do we do?" "I don't know." The admission seemed to cost him. "I've never been in this position before. I've never wanted anyone enough to risk the complications." Maya's heart was pounding so hard she was sure he could feel it. "And now?" "Now," Dominic said slowly, his eyes searching hers, "I'm trying to figure out if I'm brave enough to be human for once. To take the risk, to let someone in. That's terrifying." "Yes." He smiled, and it transformed his face, made him look younger, less burdened. "But apparently you make me want to be terrified." Maya laughed, a shaky sound. "That's possibly the least romantic thing anyone's ever said to me. I'm not good at this," he admitted. "Romance, emotions, any of it. I'm much better at spreadsheets and hostile takeovers. I noticed. But I want to try. With you." He paused. "If you're willing to be patient with a man who spent a decade building walls and has no idea how to take them down." Maya knew she should say no, should step back, maintain professional boundaries, protect her career and her heart. But when she looked at him, She saw past the Ice King to the man underneath, the one who'd worked all night because her words had cracked something open, the one who was trembling slightly even as he tried to maintain control, the one who was offering her something he'd never offered anyone. "I need you to understand something," she said carefully. "I'm not interested in being a secret. I won't sneak around, hide in supply closets, pretend in public that there's nothing between us. Agreed, and I won't quit my job. I've worked too hard to get where I am, and I'm good at what I do." "You're exceptional at what you do," he corrected. "Which is why I'm promoting you to Director of Operations. Different reporting structure, same floor, but not directly under me anymore." Maya blinked. "You already thought this through." "I spent all night thinking this through. Every angle, every complication, every potential solution." He pulled a folder from his desk. HR policies, conflict of interest disclosures, organizational restructuring. "I've mapped it all out." Despite everything, Maya felt laughter bubbling up. "You made a spreadsheet for our relationship?" "3 spreadsheets," he said seriously, "and a risk assessment matrix. You're insane." "Probably." His smile was self-deprecating. "But I'm thorough. If we're going to do this, we're going to do it right. No secrets, no impropriety, no reason for anyone to question your competence or my judgment." Maya took the folder, flipped through it. He really had thought of everything. The reporting structure change, the disclosure protocols, even a timeline for announcements. "This is the most unromantic courtship material I've ever seen. Would you prefer flowers and poetry?" "God, no." She looked up at him. "This is perfect. Practical, honest, thorough, very you. Is that a yes?" The vulnerability in his voice undid her. "It's a yes." "But Dominic?" "Yes? Next time you want to tell me you have feelings for me, maybe lead with that instead of promoting me and handing me a folder." He laughed, a real laugh, full and genuine. "Noted. I'll work on my romantic communication skills." "Please do." He pulled her close again, and this time the kiss was softer, sweeter, full of promise instead of desperate hunger. When they broke apart, he said, "We should probably discuss the actual Director of Operations position. It's a real role, not just a workaround." "You'll be overseeing Dominic?" "Yes. Stop talking about work." "But we're at work." "We should." Maya kissed him again, and felt him smile against her mouth. "You're right," he murmured. "Work can wait." They spent the next hour talking, really talking, not about business or strategy, but about themselves. Dominic told her about growing up in his father's shadow, about the pressure to be perfect, about the loneliness of the top. Maya shared her own story, about being underestimated her entire career, about proving herself over and over, about the exhaustion of always having to be twice as good to be seen as half as competent. "Is that why you never said anything?" Dominic asked. "About how you felt?" "Partly. Also because I thought you were completely out of reach. The Ice King doesn't date his assistant. The Ice King is a myth," he said quietly. "A useful one, but a myth nonetheless. The man underneath is just someone who forgot how to be warm until you reminded him. That's the most romantic thing you've said yet." "I'm learning." He checked his watch. Grimaced. "We have a board meeting in an hour. Back to reality. For now." He stood, helping her up. "But, Maya? This isn't temporary for me. I don't do casual. When I commit to something, I'm all in. I know. I've seen you work. This is different. This is..." He struggled for words. "This is me trying to build something that matters outside these walls. With you." Maya felt tears prick her eyes. "I'm all in too. But you need to know, I'm going to challenge you. I'm going to call you out when you're being too harsh or too distant. I'm not going to let you hide behind the Ice King anymore." "Good," he said firmly. "I need that. I need you to keep seeing me. Keep reminding me that there's more to life than quarterly reports and market share." deal. They stood there for a moment, foreheads touching, breathing together. Then Dominic straightened, and Maya watched the transformation as he shifted back into CEO mode, shoulders squaring, expression cooling, the armor sliding back into place. But now she knew it was just armor, and underneath was a man who was trying, for her, to be brave enough to be human. The next few weeks were a delicate dance. Maya transitioned into her new role as Director of Operations, a position that turned out to be far more challenging and rewarding than she'd expected. Dominic hadn't created a fake job. He'd given her real responsibility, real authority, real opportunities to prove herself. During work hours, they were consummate professionals. In meetings, they maintained appropriate distance. In front of staff, they were cordial, respectful, but nothing more. Maya reported to the COO now, not directly to Dominic, which helped with the optics. But after hours, when the office emptied and the city lights sparkled below, they would find each other, sometimes in his office, sometimes in the small conference room on the 41st floor that no one used after 6. They would talk for hours, about everything and nothing. Dominic told her about his dreams for the company, not just the profit-driven goals, but the impact he wanted to have, the innovations he wanted to pursue. Maya shared her ideas, and he actually listened, actually implemented some of them. She learned that beneath the icy exterior was a man who cared deeply, perhaps too deeply, about doing things right, who carried the weight of every decision, every employee, every stakeholder, who had sacrificed personal happiness for professional success so thoroughly that he'd forgotten one didn't have to exclude the other. And he learned that she liked her coffee with too much sugar, that she had a tendency to bite her lower lip when concentrating, that she'd grown up in a small town and still felt like an outsider in the corporate world, learned that she was brilliant with systems and people, that she could read a room better than anyone he'd ever met, that she had dreams of her own that she'd put aside to climb the ladder. Why operations? He asked one evening, as they sat in his office, the city spread out below them like scattered jewels. You could do anything: strategy, business development, even start your own company. Why stay here? Maya considered the question. Because I believe in what we're building. Not just the profit margins, but the actual work. We make products that matter, that improve lives. And because, she paused, because I wanted to be close to you. Even when I thought nothing could happen between us, I wanted to be in your orbit. Dominic reached for her hand. The gesture still surprised her sometimes, how tactile he was in private, as if he was making up for years of never allowing himself to touch anyone with genuine affection. I was so lonely before you, he said quietly. I didn't even realize how much until you started changing things. I didn't change anything. I just saw what was already there. You changed everything. He pulled her closer. You made me want more than just success. You made me want a life. They had disclosed their relationship to HR, following every protocol Dominic had outlined. The response had been surprisingly positive, though Maya suspected Dominic's position and the fact that they'd restructured the reporting relationship helped. Still, there was gossip, whispers about favoritism, about Maya sleeping her way to the top, about Dominic finally showing a weakness that could be exploited. Maya heard it all. The comments in the bathroom, the pointed looks in meetings, the subtle exclusions from lunch groups. It hurt more than she wanted to admit. One particularly bad day, after overhearing 2 women from marketing laughing about how the Ice King must be good in bed if she's willing to put up with him for a promotion, Maya found herself fighting tears in the stairwell. Dominic found her there. He always seemed to know when she needed him. Talk to me, he said, sitting beside her on the cold concrete steps. It's nothing, just stupid gossip. It's not nothing if it's hurting you. He put his arm around her shoulders. Tell me. So she did. Told him about the comments, the implications, the way people looked at her now like she was less than she'd been. "They think I used you," she said, her voice breaking. "They think I manipulated my way into this position." "Anyone who thinks that is an idiot," Dominic said firmly. "You earned this position. You were qualified for it before we ever got together. I have the performance reviews to prove it. I know that. You know that. But they don't. Then we make them know it." He stood, pulling her up with him. "You're presenting the Q3 operations analysis to the board next week. It's your strategy, your insights, your work. Let them see what you're capable of." "Dominic, I can't." "Yes, you can. You're brilliant, Maya. I didn't promote you because I care about you. I care about you because you're exceptional, and I recognized that long before I admitted to myself that I wanted you." He cupped her face gently. "Let them see what I see. Not the woman who's with the CEO, but the strategist who's going to revolutionize how we operate." The board presentation was terrifying. Maya stood in front of 20 of the most powerful people in the industry, including Dominic, and presented her analysis of operational inefficiencies and proposed solutions. She'd worked for 3 weeks on it, refining every detail, anticipating every question. The board members were tough, asking pointed questions, challenging her assumptions. But Maya held her ground, backed up every claim with data, demonstrated not just knowledge but genuine insight into the business. When she finished, there was a moment of silence. Then the chairman, a silver-haired man who'd known Dominic's father, started clapping. The rest of the board joined in. "Outstanding work, Miss Chen," the chairman said. "I move that we implement these recommendations immediately." The motion passed unanimously. After the meeting, as board members filed out, several stopped to congratulate Maya personally. One older woman, a venture capitalist with a fearsome reputation, pulled her aside. "I heard the rumors," she said bluntly, "about you and Dominic. Want to know what I think?" Maya braced herself. "I think anyone who believes you got here through anything other than sheer competence is a fool." That presentation was masterful. Dominic's personal life is his business, but his professional judgment has always been impeccable. If he trusts you with operations, that tells me everything I need to know about your capabilities. She patted Maya's arm. "Don't let the gossips make you doubt yourself. You belong here." That night, Dominic took Maya to dinner at a small Italian restaurant, tucked away in a quiet neighborhood. It was the first time they'd gone out publicly as a couple, not hiding, not sneaking, just two people sharing a meal. "You were incredible today," he said, raising his wine glass to her. "The way you handled Morrison's questions about the supply chain restructuring, I wanted to applaud." Maya smiled. "You did applaud. I wanted to do more. I wanted to stand up and tell everyone that you're the smartest person I know, that you see patterns and solutions that I miss, that you make me better at my job. That might have been excessive. Probably." He reached across the table, taking her hand. "But it's true. You do make me better. Not just at work. Everywhere. You make me braver," Maya said. "I never would have presented to the board 6 months ago. I would have convinced myself I wasn't ready. That I needed more experience. More credentials. What changed? You believed in me. And you showed me that perfection isn't the goal. Excellence is. That it's okay to be challenged, to not have all the answers, as long as you're willing to find them." Dominic's thumb traced circles on her palm. "I spent so long thinking that showing emotion was weakness, that caring about someone was a liability. My father's mistakes reinforced that belief. Every time he let his heart override his head, it cost us." "But it didn't cost you everything," Maya pointed out. "He built something worth saving. And his mistakes taught you to be careful, which isn't the same as being cold. I was cold, though. For years. You were protected, she corrected gently. There's a difference. They talked through dinner about the future, not just the company's future, but their future. Dominic spoke about wanting to step back eventually, to build a leadership team strong enough that he wasn't the single point of failure. Maya shared her dream of starting an initiative to mentor young women in corporate environments to help them navigate the challenges she'd faced. I want to create that, Dominic said immediately. A formal program, company funded. You should run it. That's not. It's exactly what we need. Half our workforce is women, but the executive team is 70% male. That's my failure, and your idea could fix it. He was already thinking strategically. Maya could see it in his eyes. We could start small, pilot program with 10 mentees, scale from there. You're doing it again, Maya said, amused. Doing what? Turning a casual conversation into a business plan. He smiled sheepishly. Sorry, occupational hazard. Don't apologize. I love watching your mind work. But sometimes we can just talk about things without action items. That's fair. He squeezed her hand. Tell me something not related to work. Something about you I don't know. Maya thought for a moment. I wanted to be a concert pianist when I was younger. Practiced 4 hours a day all through high school. What happened? Reality. I was good, but not great. Not good enough to make a living at it. So I went to business school instead, convinced myself that practical was better than passionate. Do you regret it? Sometimes. But then I think about where I am now, what I'm building, and I realize that passion doesn't have to be about the thing itself. It can be about the impact, the process, the people. She met his eyes. I'm passionate about what we're creating. Maybe not the way I was passionate about music, but in a deeper way, a way that feels sustainable. Play for me sometime, Dominic said. The piano. I'd like to hear you. I'm rusty. I don't care. I just want to see that part of you. It was such a simple request, but it meant everything. He wanted to know her, all of her, not just the professional, competent version she showed the world. Over the next few months, their relationship deepened in ways Maya hadn't expected. Dominic was attentive, thoughtful, surprisingly romantic in his own analytical way. He remembered everything she told him, kept mental notes of her preferences, anticipated her needs the way she'd always anticipated his. He bought her a keyboard for her apartment, a beautiful digital piano that didn't take up too much space. Maya cried when she saw it, and Dominic had looked panicked until she explained these were happy tears. She played for him that night, rusty and imperfect, but he listened like she was performing at Carnegie Hall. You're beautiful when you play, he said afterward. Your whole face changes. You look free. I feel free with you, she admitted. Like I can be all the parts of myself, the professional, the dreamer, the woman who still doesn't quite believe this is real. It's real, he assured her. I promise you, it's real. But real also meant navigating challenges, like the night Dominic came home from a difficult board meeting, tense and withdrawn, and Maya had to learn how to give him space while still being present. Or the morning, Maya woke up anxious about a presentation, and Dominic had to learn that sometimes she needed reassurance, not strategy. They learned each other's patterns, their triggers, their ways of processing stress. Dominic tended to isolate when overwhelmed, falling back on old habits of handling everything alone. Maya had a tendency to over-prepare to the point of exhaustion, driven by the need to prove herself. They called each other on these patterns, gently but firmly. You're doing it again, Maya would say when she found him working at 2 a.m., having not answered her texts. Carrying everything yourself. And he would stop, take a breath, and tell her what was wrong. You've rewritten that report 4 times, Dominic would point out. It was perfect the second time. You're trying to achieve impossible perfection, and she would save the document and step away. 6 months into their relationship, Dominic asked Maya to move in with him. Not in a romantic proposal with flowers and fanfare, but on a Tuesday morning over coffee in his office. "Your lease is up next month," he said, as casually as if discussing a meeting schedule. "You should move in with me." Maya blinked. "That's very romantic." "I'm serious. You spend half your time at my place anyway. Your toothbrush is in my bathroom. Your clothes are in my closet. We might as well make it official." Dominic Kane, you really need to work on your delivery. He smiled, that rare full smile that still made her heart skip. "Maya Chen, I wake up every morning and the first thing I think about is whether you're there. I go to sleep every night disappointed when you're not. I want you in my space, in my life, permanently. I want to come home to you. I want to build a life with you that isn't separated into his place and her place, but is just ours." "That's better," Maya said, her voice soft. "Much better. Is that a yes?" "That's a yes." Moving in together revealed new dimensions of each other. Maya discovered that Dominic was meticulous about organization, but surprisingly relaxed about cleanliness, that he could cook exactly 3 dishes well and burned everything else, that he liked to read before bed and would unconsciously reach for her hand while reading. Dominic learned that Maya was cheerful in the mornings in a way he found both endearing and mildly alarming, that she reorganized kitchen cabinets based on frequency of use rather than category, that she talked to herself when working through problems and didn't realize she was doing it. They created rituals. Sunday morning breakfast together. No phones. No work talk. Friday evening debriefs, where they'd share the week's challenges and victories. Late-night conversations in bed where they'd talk about everything from philosophy to office gossip to dreams they'd never spoken aloud. "I want to retire by 50, Dominic admitted one night. "I know that sounds impossible given my position, but I don't want to be CEO until I die. I want time for other things. Travel. Maybe. Learning to paint. Spending full days with you without checking my phone. I'd like that," Maya said. "The you retiring part, not necessarily the painting. I've seen your doodles in meetings." He laughed. "They're abstract. They're illegible." "Fair point." He pulled her closer. "What about you? What do you want in 10 years? Maya considered. "I want to have made a real difference, not just in profits or efficiency, but in people's lives. I want young women entering the workforce to have it easier than I did. I want to build systems that work for everyone, not just the people who already have advantages." "You're going to do that," Dominic said with certainty. "You already are." The mentorship program Maya had proposed was launched that fall, starting with 15 mentees from various departments. Maya ran it personally, meeting with each woman individually, creating workshops, facilitating connections. The response was overwhelming. Within 3 months, they had a waiting list of over 50 women wanting to participate. Dominic watched her present the program results to the leadership team with undisguised pride. She'd transformed from his assistant to a leader in her own right, commanding respect not because of her relationship with him, but because of her competence, her vision, her genuine care for the people she led. After the presentation, the CFO pulled him aside. "You found a good one," he said. "She's going to be running this company someday." "I know," Dominic said. And he did know. Maya had the intelligence, the people skills, the strategic thinking. More importantly, she had the heart for it, the desire to build something meaningful, not just successful. That night, lying in bed, Dominic said, "I want you to start sitting in on board meetings." Maya turned to look at him. As what? As a board observer initially. Learning the dynamics, understanding the strategic discussions. Eventually, "I want you on the board itself." "Dominic, that's overdue," he interrupted. "We need diverse perspectives at that level, and you've proven you can hold your own. Plus, selfishly, I want you there. I trust your judgment." People will say it's nepotism. Let them. Your track record speaks for itself. The operations improvements you've implemented have increased efficiency by 18%. The mentorship program is changing our culture. Your board presentation 6 months ago led to our most successful quarter in 5 years. Anyone who thinks you don't deserve a seat at that table isn't paying attention. Maya was quiet for a moment. Then she said, I'm scared. Of what? Of failing. Of proving everyone right who said I only got here because of you. Of not being good enough. Dominic rolled over to face her fully. Maya, listen to me. You are more than good enough. You're exceptional. And the fear you're feeling, that's not a sign of inadequacy. That's a sign that you understand the weight of responsibility. That you care about doing it right. How do you manage it? The fear? The pressure? The constant scrutiny? Honestly, I didn't, for a long time. I just buried it, pretended it didn't exist. But you taught me something better. He touched her face gently. You taught me that acknowledging fear doesn't make you weak, that asking for help doesn't make you incompetent, that being human, with all the vulnerability that entails, is actually what makes you strong enough to lead. When did you get so wise? Since I met you. He kissed her softly. You make me want to be better, Maya, not just professionally, but as a person. You make me believe that I can be both successful and human, that I don't have to choose. You never had to choose. You just thought you did. I know that now. A year into their relationship, Dominic took Maya to the coast for the weekend. They stayed in a small cottage overlooking the ocean, away from the city, from the office, from everything that demanded their attention. On Saturday evening, they walked along the beach, the setting sun painting the sky in shades of gold and pink. The water was cold against their bare feet, the sand soft and yielding. I've been thinking, Dominic said, his hand warm in hers. About the future, about what I want from life. And I want you in it. Permanently, officially, in every way. He stopped walking, turned to face her. I know we've talked about the future abstractly, but I want to be specific. I want to marry you, Maya. Maya's breath caught. Are you proposing? Not yet. He smiled. I'm warning you that I'm going to propose. Because I don't want it to be a surprise. I want you to have time to think about it, to decide if that's what you want too. That's very unromantic, Maya said, but her voice was shaking. I know. But I also know you like to process things, to think through implications, and this is important enough that I want you to be absolutely certain. I'm already certain. Maya, I'm already certain, she repeated, moving closer to him. I don't need time to think about it. I know what I want, and it's you. It's this. It's building a life together that's messy and complicated and real. Dominic's eyes were suspiciously bright. You're stealing my proposal. You said you were warning me, not proposing. So technically I'm just stating facts. You're impossible. You love me anyway. I do, he said, the words soft but certain. I love you more than I thought I could love anyone. You took my carefully controlled world and turned it inside out, and somehow that became the best thing that ever happened to me. I love you too, Maya said. Even though you make spreadsheets for relationships and announce proposals like business initiatives, maybe because of those things. He laughed, then pulled a small box from his pocket. So much for my elaborate planning. I was going to wait until tomorrow, do the whole thing properly. This is proper, Maya said. It's us. Dominic opened the box. The ring inside was stunning, a sapphire surrounded by small diamonds, elegant and unique. It's blue, he explained, like the first color you wore when you walked into my office. I remember thinking you looked like you belonged in a different world, something softer and more beautiful than the corporate machine. But you proved you could be both soft and strong, beautiful and brilliant. He took the ring out, held it between them. Maya Chen, will you marry me? Will you continue to challenge me, to see me, to remind me that being human isn't a weakness? Will you build something extraordinary with me, not just professionally, but personally? Yes, Maya said, tears streaming down her face. Yes, to all of it. He slid the ring onto her finger, and then they were kissing, laughing, crying, completely lost in each other while the waves crashed behind them and the sun set over the ocean. That night, curled up together in the cottage, they talked about what marriage would mean. The practicalities, yes, but more importantly, the commitment they were making to each other. I want you to know, Dominic said seriously, that I'm still going to mess up. I'm still going to fall back into old patterns sometimes, retreat behind the walls, forget that I don't have to carry everything alone. I know, Maya said, and I'm still going to doubt myself sometimes, worry about what people think, push myself too hard to prove I deserve to be where I am. I know. So we just keep calling each other on it, keep reminding each other of who we really are beneath the armor we wear for the world. Deal. He kissed her forehead. I never thought I'd have this. A partner, not just romantically but in every way. Someone who understands the pressures, the challenges, the constant balancing act. Someone who makes me want to be better while accepting me exactly as I am. That's what love is, Maya said softly. Not changing each other, but creating space for each other to grow. Not fixing each other, but supporting each other through the hard parts. Not completing each other, because we were already complete, but choosing to build something together that's bigger than either of us alone. They were married 4 months later in a small ceremony at the company's original headquarters, the building Dominic's father had first purchased. It was intimate, just close friends and family, but meaningful in its simplicity. Maya wore a simple ivory dress and carried sapphire blue flowers. Dominic's hands shook when he put the ring on her finger, and his voice broke when he said his vows. I promise to see you, he said, to really see you, not just as my wife, but as the brilliant, compassionate, extraordinary woman you are. I promise to support your dreams as fiercely as you've supported mine. I promise to be brave enough to be human, to show you my fears and doubts, to let you in even when every instinct tells me to protect myself. And I promise to love you, not despite your challenges and complexities, but because of them, because they make you who you are. Maya's vows were equally emotional. I promise to call you on your patterns, to not let you retreat into the Ice King when things get hard. I promise to believe in you even when you doubt yourself. I promise to challenge you and support you, to be both your safe harbor and your greatest advocate. And I promise to build this life with you as equals, as partners, as two people who chose each other and keep choosing each other every day. When they kissed, the small crowd erupted in applause. The first year of marriage was an adjustment, not because they didn't love each other, but because combining lives completely revealed new complexities. They argued about small things, about whose turn it was to handle household tasks, about how much time to spend with extended family, about whether to get a dog. Maya won the dog argument. They adopted a rescue greyhound named Heartless, who immediately attached himself to Dominic, following him around the apartment with devoted eyes. Dominic pretended to be annoyed, but Maya caught him talking to the dog in a soft voice when he thought she wasn't listening. They also navigated the challenges of both being in leadership positions at the same company. There were times when they disagreed about strategy, When Maya's people-first approach clashed with Dominic's numbers-driven decisions, they learned to debate without letting it damage their relationship, to disagree professionally while still supporting each other personally. One particularly difficult moment came when Maya pushed for a policy change that would have cut into quarterly profits but improved worker conditions. Dominic initially resisted, and they had a heated discussion in his office that ended with both of them frustrated. That night at home, they talked it through. "I'm not trying to undermine you," Maya said. "I just think we have a responsibility beyond shareholder returns." "I know," Dominic admitted. "And you're right. I was falling back into old patterns, seeing everything through the lens of financial performance. But we can afford to take the hit, and it's the right thing to do." "You're agreeing with me?" "Don't sound so surprised. You're usually right about people things. It's annoying." Maya laughed. "I love you. I love you too, even when you make me question my priorities. Especially then." The policy was implemented, and while it did impact that quarter's profits slightly, employee satisfaction and retention improved dramatically. The board, surprisingly, was supportive, particularly after Maya presented the long-term benefits in her characteristically thorough way. 2 years into their marriage, Maya was offered the COO position when the current COO retired. It was a massive opportunity, but also complicated given her relationship with Dominic. "You should take it," he said immediately when she told him about the offer. "Dominic, people will. Let them talk. You're the best person for the job. The board knows it, I know it, you know it. Anyone who suggests otherwise is letting their biases override the evidence. It changes our dynamic, though. I'd be your direct report again, in a way. We'll manage it the same way we've managed everything else, with clear boundaries, transparent communication, and by letting your work speak for itself." He took her hands. "Maya, I know you're worried about perception, but you've spent 3 years proving yourself over and over. At some point you have to trust that people see what I see, that you've earned your place here." Maya took the position. The announcement was met with some criticism, as expected, but also with significant support. The mentorship program had created a network of women throughout the company who respected Maya's leadership. The operations improvements she'd implemented spoke for themselves, and the board, which now included 2 additional women Maya had helped recruit, was unanimous in their approval. As COO, Maya flourished. She brought a human element to executive leadership that had been missing, championed policies that balanced profitability with employee well-being, and built a culture of innovation and inclusion. Dominic watched her with pride, and something else. Relief. Relief that the company he'd poured everything into was in good hands, that he didn't have to carry it all alone anymore. On their 3rd anniversary, they returned to the beach where he'd proposed. They walked the same stretch of sand, older now, more settled, carrying the weight of shared experiences and challenges overcome. "Do you ever regret it?" Maya asked. "Us, I mean. The complications, the scrutiny, the way it's made everything more complex." Dominic stopped walking, turned to face her with that intense focus he'd never lost. "Marrying you is the only decision I've ever made that I've never, not even for a second, questioned. Everything else in my life, I analyze, I second-guess, I run scenarios. But this us, it's the one thing I'm absolutely certain about. Even when I'm annoying, especially when you're annoying. Because it means you care enough to push, to challenge, to not let me get away with my worst tendencies." He pulled her close. "You made me human again, Maya. You took the Ice King and thawed him out, reminded him that having a heart wasn't a weakness but a strength. You were always human," Maya said. "You just needed someone to see it. I needed you to see it." They stood there as the sun set, the same golden light that had witnessed their engagement, now illuminating 3 years of marriage, of partnership, of 2 people who'd found each other in the most unlikely of places and built something extraordinary together. Later that night, in the same cottage, Dominic said, "I'm thinking about stepping back in 5 years. Not retiring completely, but transitioning to chairman, letting someone else take the CEO role." "Really?" Maya was surprised. Dominic's identity had been so tied to being CEO for so long. "Really? I want time for other things." "For us,